Hi, my name is Diavian Thomas, and I'm going to be telling you about the Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War was a conflict in 1898 between the United States and Spain that ended with Spanish colonial rule in the Americas and resulted in the U.S. obtaining territories in the Western Pacific and Latin America. The war originated with Cuba struggling for independence from Spain, which began in February 1895. The Spaniards' brutal oppression to end all rebellion in Cuba was being intensely portrayed in the U.S. frontline newspapers. The growing popular demand for U.S. intervention became a persistent problem after the unexplained sinking of the USS Maine in the Havana harbor on February 15, 1898, which had been sent to protect U.S. citizens and property after anti-Spanish rioting in Havana. Spain denounced a truce on April 9th, and it speeded up its new programs to grant Cuba limited powers of self-government. But the United States Congress soon afterward issued resolutions that declared Cuba's right to independence and demanded the withdrawal of Spain's armed forces from the island. Spain declared a war on the United States on April 24th, followed by a U.S. declaration of war on the 25th, which was made retroactive to the April 21st. Some pros and cons of the Spanish-American War was that the U.S. had a reasonable chance of success. Only about 3,000 U.S. soldiers died during the war, and the total size of the army was 248,000. There was 60,000 Spanish casualties. There was a goal of reestablishing peace, which was a pro because the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1898. Some cons of the Spanish-American War was that America annexed Hawaii, and even though the Spanish wasn't prepared for the war, neither was the U.S. to fight, and they were understaffed and lacked the skills required to fight, even though they won.
Hello, my name is Winston Bryan. I'm here to give you a brief synopsis on the Spanish-American War and also a few important names you should remember when regarding the Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War was one of the shortest wars in American history, which only consisted of about 85 days of actual fighting. Spain declared war on the United States on April 24th of 1898, and on July 17th of that same year, 1898, the Spanish powers surrendered to the American powers in the U.S. Navy. Ceasefire papers were signed on August 12th of 1898, and the Treaty of Paris was signed in Paris on December 10th of 1898. So from April 24th to December 10th, that is 231 days. So the Spanish-American War didn't even last a full calendar year. A few important names you should think about when regarding the Spanish-American War are starting with William McKinley, who was the President of the United States at the start of the Spanish-American War. General William Schaffner was the leader of the United States Navy during the entirety of the Spanish-American War, and Theodore Roosevelt actually fought in the Spanish-American War under General William Schaffner and was later named the President of the United States after William McKinley was assassinated in 1901, which made him the youngest president at the age of 43. Last but not least is Jules Cambon, who was the French ambassador who met with the McKinney administration to discuss the ceasefire papers that were signed on August 12th and to also discuss peace treaty terms so they can finally get the war over with.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jafet Arredondo Rios, and I'm going to be explaining what the location was of the Spanish-American War and also the battles. So let's get to it. The location of the Spanish-American War was in 3 different places, and none of them were actually in Spain, and this all occurred in the Spanish colonies. The battle locations were in Cuba, Puerto Rico, which are in the Caribbean, and the Philippines and Guam, which is located in Asia Pacific. After the unexplained sunken ship in Havana Harbor of the battleship USS Maine on February 13, 1898, the U.S. declared war on Spain on the 25th, but was taking effect on April 21st. But by May 1st, 1898, Commander George Dewey led a U.S. naval squadron into Manila Bay in the Philippines. In the morning engagement, they destroyed the anchored ships of Spain in a battle that only caused 7 soldiers to be wounded. Manila was then embarked on and was fully in control of the U.S. troops in 3 months, which was by August. Also, then the Spanish Caribbean fleet of the Pascual Severa was located in Santiago Harbor in Cuba. The U.S. didn't find it. Well, it took a while, but when the U.S. did find it, their location was in When the U.S. found their location, they sent an army of regular troops and volunteers under General William Shafter. Also, this army was included Theodore Roosevelt and his 1st Volunteer Cavalry. They would call themselves the Rough Riders. On July 3rd, they landed on the east coast of Santiago and they slowly but steadily advanced to the city. Basically, their plan was to force Pascual Severa and the Spanish fleet off the harbor. Severa and his army attempted to flee westward through the coast, and that didn't end well. The result was that all his ships came under heavy fire from the U.S., and 2 weeks later, Santiago surrendered to Shafter on July 17th, at last ending the Spanish-American War.
My name is Cameron Blue, and I'm going to be reading some statistics about the Spanish-American War. At the time, the American population was roughly 63 million people. Out of that number, only 306,760 people actually served, which is not a large number at all, roughly about 0.4% of the population. The total number of fatalities recorded only amounts to 3,549 people, with only about 3,289 of them actually being killed in war. The rest were blamed on diseases and living conditions. Statistics for the Spanish side are a little sketchy because at the time, the Spanish was already fighting an ongoing war with Cuba, which had already led to many fatalities that weren't recorded or from the war with the Americans. So roughly about 55 to 60,000 Spanish actually died from the war, with 90% of the deaths from disease, not even from war fatalities, which is actually a huge number to be blamed on disease.